Hey my friends, Dr. Gabe Roberts, the Subconscious Healer, here today with another video on breaking free from chronic symptoms and chronic pain. In today's topic, we're just going to talk about how you can quickly shift and give your brain a message of safety to decrease symptoms. So if you're someone that has any kind of chronic symptom or chronic pain or something like that, this video will be very beneficial for you to take it and apply it in the ways of, again, establishing safety in the brain. That's what we're all about. So speaking of safety in the brain, let's take a moment and just slow our breathing down. Put our attention right on our heart center. Put our awareness right here where our hand is. Feel nice 3 deep, slow breaths. Exhaling longer than we inhale for. And then find a moment when you experience gratitude and allow yourself to feel the feelings of gratitude. And that really simplifies and synchronizes, rather, the functioning between your heart and your brain, making them function together, creating heart-brain coherence. And this is a really good way to send safety to your brain. If you want your body to heal, if you want yourself to have a recovery from chronic symptoms, sending signals of safety to your brain is going to be of paramount importance, because it's very likely that it is neuroplastic. The brain has learned to keep symptoms on by neuroplasticity and learning and reshaping and remolding based on what your most common thoughts are. And most people's common thoughts whenever they have a chronic illness or chronic symptoms are thoughts of fear, worry, doubt, frustration, anger, grief, hopelessness, because they feel like they'll be stuck with that forever. Well, naturally, if you're thinking that all the time, your brain's going to wire it in. So what are ways that your brain's going to wire it in and it becomes permanent? Okay, so let me just say that one more time. Focus on your pain a lot, your pain will become part of your life. That's what happens. Unfortunately, nobody does it. They don't do it on purpose. But that's what takes place with people, and that's how they become chronic, because they oftentimes sit there and they become so enveloped in their symptoms that their pain and their suffering and their worry and their doubt suddenly becomes part of their life, because their brain has learned to keep those on, learned to keep the symptoms on, and learn to activate the symptoms at the first sign of anything perceived as dangerous. And your brain is constantly making meaning of things. And if beyond your awareness, below the awareness of below the threshold of consciousness, your brain is always processing information. And if it's perceiving danger, it'll immediately activate a threat response system within your brain, and you'll have some kind of symptom. Okay, and it could range from anything. I was working with a client yesterday, and we were taking his subconscious into that's odd, a stick I'm standing on here in my front yard just snapped, maybe telling me to maybe not have ice cream tonight. Just this stick I'm standing on just snapped out of nowhere. That's what we heard. But back to the message. I'm chasing squirrels here. It's about sending signals of safety to your brain, and we don't realize this. Our brain is constantly processing information, making meaning of things below the threshold of our awareness. And as it's doing this, if it has anything to do with threat, danger, perceived danger, it's going to activate the threat response system, and that will do it's a sensation. And if it's ignored or masked, it starts to get stronger and stronger, becoming a symptom over time. Working with a gentleman yesterday, I was taking him to an area, we were working on some emotions that his brain he's been taught to avoid these as a kid without knowing it. So his brain perceives these as dangerous. If your brain, if you have a certain behavior as a little kid and you sit in timeout, what happens is, and your parents make you sit in timeout for acting out an emotion, let's say. So now to a child's brain, not an adult brain, they're entirely different. The child sees sitting in timeout as potentially life-threatening, because to a child, they don't think like an adult, right? They don't have the experiences that adults do. So they think, in a child's mind, the source of safety, the source of food, the source of comfort, the source of me surviving is all in my parents. Without them, I don't survive. That's what a child's perception of life is. And when a child acts out, has to sit in time, they act out a behavior, they have to sit in time out, their brain perceives whatever we just did is potentially life-threatening. Make sense? That's how it starts. We might look at that as adults and think it's not a big deal. To that child, it's a very big deal. And between 0 to 5 is when our imprints become like a lens, how we view life after that, right? Between conception and 5. And now these can always be changed. These can always be overridden. It doesn't mean you're stuck that way. It just means that you need to put in some work to retrain yourself. Depending on the depth and the weight you're carrying depends on the level of training and what kind of training you need to do that. Everyone's different. But just to give you an idea, the whole idea of what I want to share with you today is how you can start viewing your symptoms through the lens of safety instead of the lens of danger, okay? So if you have a chronic pain somewhere in your back that's been there a long time, a chronic knee pain or gut issue or whatever it might be, if you have a chronic symptom that's been there longer than 3 to 6 months, let's say, remember the definition of chronic symptom has changed. The definition of chronic symptom is a structural rearrangement in the brain. So it's not something to do with the physical body. We have to treat it with the brain. We have to treat it by teaching the brain how to look at something through the lens of danger. Look through something through the lens of safety rather than through the lens of danger. So if you have a chronic pain or symptom, gut issue, pelvic pain, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, something that's been there for longer than 6 months, it's no longer an acute problem, it's a chronic problem. And by definition, it's a problem with the brain, not the body part, not the limb, not the back, not the hip. The way you want to give it a signal of safety is first put your awareness into that area. If you're feeling something that's not like a physical symptom, like anxiety or tension or nervousness, notice where you feel that in your body and put your awareness into that location, like a spotlight shining right into that area. And as you put your awareness into that area, where you feel the sensation or the pain, flip the lens from danger or frustration or fear. Flip it to safety. And how do you do that? Imagine the lens flipping. And as that lens flips of how you're observing this symptom, suddenly you're looking at it with curiosity, like a child staring at a butterfly landing on a flower. You're looking at it like the way a child would look at a vast tropical fish aquarium, looking at all the different colors, like Nemo. Imagine Nemo, right? Finding Nemo, right? So imagine the wonder and the curiosity that kind of lens, actually that kind of lens projects from your awareness, right? That's how the way you have to look at it. Your pain changes when your perception of it changes. That's the real healing. It has to be done by you. It's an internal job. So wherever that symptom is, flip the lens, look at it like curious lightheartedness. Look at that symptom with a curiousness, a lightheartedness, in a way of ease. Just imagine yourself doing that and trying not to get rid of the symptom. As counterproductive as that may sound, if you walk up to an armed guard and say, put your gun down, everything's okay. Imagine what that armed guard's going to do, right? You tell your brain to turn a symptom off, and you don't have any engaged trust with it at all. It hasn't learned any safety. You haven't done anything to reestablish the trust with it. You've been attacking it or thinking it's out to do you wrong, or you've been feeling that your body's really broken because people have told you things. When you feel this way, your brain has no choice but to create that reality for you. So if you feel your body's broke, your brain is going to be producing symptoms. If you feel like you're not broke, your brain is in threat, your brain is perceiving danger, and you start just giving attention to your brain and not your body. And I don't say ignore symptoms, but look at symptoms like, you're just my brain. It's just my brain having a feeling danger about something, so I'm going to give it feedback. It needs feedback right now. And the way you give it feedback is not through force, through demonstration. You have to show, you have to experience it. Your nervous system doesn't learn through logic, it learns through feeling and experiencing. And so when you look at it through the lens of curiosity, without trying to get rid of it, you're curious, you're observing it, you're just acknowledging it. You notice, does it feel tight, tense? Does it feel stabbing or throbbing? Does it feel aching or sharp? Is it one spot or another spot? Just notice those things about it. Is it burning? Is it cold? Whatever you notice about it. And as you're observing it through that lens of safety, and whatever you're observing about it's right. Just allow it to be. There's nothing wrong with it. You're just observing it. If you notice it starts to dissipate or change, lighten up, then that is a guarantee. An almost guarantee. You can never guarantee things anymore in full. It's an almost guarantee. It's highly, highly likely that your symptom is from your brain being convinced that you're in danger. And it's wired that in. And what you've just done is you've made new wires of safety. That's why the sensation has changed, because it's not the body part, it's the brain. And as you do that with your brain, and you do that more and more and more, and you learn how to respond to your symptoms as like a terrified puppy that you're trying to comfort and go at it with ease and comfort and curiosity and openness and not force, your brain will lighten up. Your brain will start to get the clue of safety, and you will notice your body rapidly starts to follow. It's that simple. If this was something that was helpful to you, I continue to keep following this, because I'm going to share more and more and more of this, because this is how you learn to break free from chronic pain. You have to understand the root cause of it. And the root cause of chronic pain is no longer something with the physical body. The root cause of chronic pain is a restructuring of the brain centers and how they start to talk to one another. Okay, they start to communicate in ways that they start to behave as if a fire alarm is continuously going off that is no longer necessary, no longer needed. It's like the fire has come and gone, and the fire alarm's still sounding off. That's essentially what chronic pain is. And how do you turn the alarm off? You can't just flip the switch. You have to convince it it's safe. And how do you do that? Through the lens of safety, through the lens of curiosity, openness, and ease. You look at your symptom that way, like you're looking at it through a spotlight. Flip the lens, curious, ease, allowing, acknowledging, not trying to rush, not trying to check off a box, not with an agenda. Your brain knows you better than you know you. Your brain will know. If you're trying to teach it safety and you have an agenda, if somebody comes and says, yeah, we'll make a deal, and they purposely put a hand behind their back as they're trying to shake your hand, how well are you going to trust them? Your brain has to learn that you're authentic and you're real with this. That's when it starts to tone down. And the depth of trust that you start to allow in this process, the more you accept it's your brain and not your body, and the more you continuously give your brain signals of safety, from an authentic standpoint and not a standpoint of just trying to hurry up and get rid of it, is going to be the depth that determines how quickly you'll recover. So I hope this helps. If this is something that resonates with you, like or follow this channel and share this with somebody else that needs to hear this message, because like I said, I'm a chiropractor, and it's very clear that what we're doing currently in the realm of chronic pain and chronic symptoms, in our functional medicine world, in our chiropractic world, in our acupuncture world, when it comes to severe chronic symptoms and people that have chronic ongoing mystery illnesses that nobody can figure out, the very clear answer is not, it's no longer the body. We have to shift our approach and start opening doors to new understandings of things. And I'm not saying these tools aren't valuable. They are all valuable. But whenever a person has reoccurring symptoms that are not responding to those, conventional or alternative care, it's their brain. It's simply a brain stuck in threat response, and the brain has learned through neuroplastic ways to keep the threat response active long after it should be. It keeps the alarm going long after the fire's been put out. Okay? There'll be a lot more of this ahead for now. Like I said, like and share this page, and I will see you tomorrow, my friends.